My mama ate a bean and then she turned into a monster with red eyes. No one is ever meaner than her in the winter after 5. Hello, this is Benjamin Boyce, and it's a Thrivestream, direct from me to you, live Q&A on a Thursday evening. There was something from the Evergreen State College that I needed to cover. I want to make a dedicated video about that, so let me find this. Hey, Jose. Hey, Cocoa Bread. Thundercats Ho. Kava. And B. How you guys? How are ya? Let me find this weird thing. It might not be worth... I didn't even go through it all the way. It was just kind of interesting about the Evergreen State College thing. I have to find that over here. But we can talk about anything that you guys want to talk about. We can just do a Q&A if you guys have questions for me. Somebody thinks that they sent me an email. Well, maybe I didn't get your email. You know what I've learned is that these people, they send out emails, like businesses and stuff, they send out these emails and they can see if you opened the email. I never told anybody that you can see if I opened your email to me, but maybe that's just a functionality of all these free email services that I did not know about and that I have to figure out how to turn off. I don't want read receipts on my emails. It's none of people's business. Anyways, I don't know who Pondering Professor is, and if I did miss your email, you're going to have to send another one, because maybe I did reply and didn't send it, or maybe I didn't get it. So I apologize for that. Hey, Lee Comstock. Been a long time since I saw one of your videos. I haven't been doing a lot of videos, actually. I've been doing a lot of interviews. How you guys liking those? I'm kind of a little bit like... Well, okay, so I started publishing my book on Substack, one chapter a week, and that's taken a lot of effort. And actually, I just finished last Friday, I finished the 6th chapter, and I need a break. So I need to give them something tomorrow. So putting my energy back into my literature is taking up a lot of my mind space. And then when I go back into politics, or at least I go back onto Twitter, I'm like, why are you guys being so stupid? Why are you guys being really, really stupid? I mean, dangerously stupid. And it was part of my business model, not intentionally, but it just came to be a part of my habit of YouTubing to click a story off of Twitter and then throw it onto YouTube and see what happens. I'm dress up in a bathrobe. I haven't been finding a lot of those because I haven't been looking, because people are just it's just kind of upsetting and it's not making me feel good. And I don't want to feel bad right now. So I know that you can't just stop creating things, especially when you have the ball rolling. You got to keep it rolling. So what I've been doing is doing a lot of interviews, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying those. I know that they are not as convenient as a 10-minute bathrobe reading of something, but I've been finding a lot of excellent people to talk to, and I'm booked up for the next, I'm booking out April. I will be taking a week off, going to a Midwest city with a friend, and so I won't be around for about a week or so like that. So trying to do that huge krill haul and doing a whole bunch of interviews the next couple weeks, and then I'll release them every other day while I'm gone, or maybe every other day. It's probably too much to do an hour-long video every other day. I know that's too much, but maybe people just want to listen, and if people want to tune into you, they'll tune into you. Brett and Heather Hying and Weinstein, they do 3 or 4. I think they do 2 or 3 live streams a week, and those things are 2 or 3 hours long, and people tune into them. So maybe that's what you guys want, just BENJ Ammon Radio, just kind of do that kind of thing. Super chat from, gotta fix this. I'll fight you naked. Okay. Like me, are you choosing to embrace the romantic honor in fighting for a hopeless cause naked? Or do you still have hope when it comes to fighting the woke? Oh, I'm not done. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel. Well, that's one way to become naked if you're in the middle of a naked fight. But I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm keeping that firmly affixed to my loins, or girded around my loins. I don't know exactly how a loincloth works. I've been using elastic banded underwear for my entire life, so I really don't know how you would walk around with a cod piece. Really don't know how that works. But we're speaking metaphorically here. And I'm not throwing in the cod piece in the woke, anti-woke discourse, though there are terms that we need to deal with. I've just been shifting my priorities to promoting people who are at a different level of that than I am. More abstract, more on the ground, less on the ground, people who are more or less affected than me into that discourse and promoting them, boosting them up, giving them a chance to try out their uvulas on the podcast YouTube thing, and then maybe they'll get picked up, become the next Coleman Hughes. I was the first one to interview him. I like thinking of myself as the talent scout of the avant-garde in discourse, right? But, it's a huge wave, and it's going to be around for a long time. So it's best not to completely blow your wad, and I think that refers to cash, but it might refer to something else. But it's important to, let's say, conserve your sperm, which is a metaphor for cash, when you're fighting a war of, seminal ideas, such as what is coming down the pipe, what has been descending upon us for many a year and is now like fully entrenched in every major institution that you can think of. This intersectionality stuff, this woke stuff, but, I got to stop using that word, but that's the word right now. The social justice stuff, this critical, toxic social justice stuff that's thoroughly entrenched everywhere. It's not going away anytime soon. So there's a lot of work to do. You don't need to be hyper obsessed with it all the time. At least I don't want to do that. I don't want to be upset with it all the time. There's every day, every week, they're going to find another way of expressing that, or that ideology will find another way of expressing itself in outlandish behavior of some sort or another. And so I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up hope. And to a certain extent, I am embracing the romantic honor of fighting for a hopeless cause, but I don't think it's hopeless. I think wherever we're headed, which is post whatever's going on right now, wherever we're headed, we need to do a lot of work to get there. And then we need to do a lot of work to entrench certain values that will survive better than the ersatz liberal values that are now being kind of thrown to the wayside in this rush towards justice. Super chat point curation. 90 minutes left on Kickstarter. If anyone is interested, Kickstarter/project/L Thomas /various-abstract-paintings. Throwing that up again. This is Point Creation. He's an artist. If you would like to support an artist, he's got a Kickstarter going on, and you can find out more about that Kickstarter at Kickstarter/project/L Thomas/various-abstract-paintings. If you have 90 minutes to spare, or a few minutes to spare in the midst of my 90 minutes. One more point from Point Curation. Create art, defeat global homogeneity. Global homogeneity. Do it. Fight it. Everything will be much better served by more beauty, art, and merit, or competency, let's say, or expertise in the world. Ryan R. asks, what is a Thrivestream? I mean, say that out loud. Are you guys are you alone right now? Let's say it together. Thrivestream. Let's do it. Let's thrive together. Just one more time. I know this is kind of creepy, but you guys can do it as long as you're alone. Just do it with me. Thrivestream. Now, Ryan R., did you hear all those voices out there in the dark, in the distance? saying that, does that not express to you what a Thrivestream is? Thrivestream. That's what we're up to here. That should be definition enough. You have to feel your way through this stuff. I really hope that somebody was participating along in my Thrive Along. Is that a thing? We can thrive together. Come thrive with me. Come thrive, let's thrive away. You guys see my glasses? I have a new light. It's okay, you can see that in my glasses right there, right? This thing's really bright and it's small. It's got these barn doors on it. There was a light on sale on Amazon, and I've been using this other light for almost 4 years now. That's this huge fluorescent bulb, and it's in this kind of boxy thing with like this piece of white like one of the plasticky fabrics. I can't think of the name of it right now. But it's a big white square shining down on me. I've been worried about this camera because I cannot control, freaking Apple won't let me control the exposure. I just want to set the exposure. So my camera shifts, like you can see that. It blows out and then it readjusts. And I wanted something a little bit more focused so it doesn't blow out so much. But I kind of like a little bit, I like the lighting here, though you can see much more texture in my skin, which is kind of splotchy now. So that's kind of a worry of mine, but I'm dealing with it. It is really bright. And then I have this I have a ring light over there. Can you see it in my glasses? So that's like my studio upgrade. You gotta constantly be making things better, I guess. You guys like my black background? I changed that a couple months ago from the green because I could not, again, it's this freaking exposure. It would change and then I would have this bleed in with my keying, which is where you turn the green something else. And anyways, I was always just leaving it black because I was doing mostly interviews and I like just white boy in a black background, just like very stark. It's very like, it's like an inverted text, instead of like black ink on a white background, you got a white boy on a black background. And I just like that very stark thing. And sometimes depending on the outfit, it would work. It would be too stark. It would not be too stark, but I was doing black anyways. And even though you can see it a little bit, this gray, it's really easy to contrast out in post. I just turn up the contrast and then it just kind of like takes care of all that like medium splotchiness on my face. It's making me look kind of pink though. But whatever. People are splotchy. Oh, super chat from the Naked Man. Geez, Naked Man, why do you gotta get so big when you're naked? Okay. I'll fight you naked. Super chat. Thank you. Quote, I think this is what happens when the economics goes wrong. End quote. Douglas Murray, I think we might be effed, but we should never give up. Yeah, there's a lot of different things to talk about, like economics. I've been listening to an audiobook about Adam Smith, and the Scottish economist. It's interesting. Nothing's really stuck yet. I mean, it's basic stuff. It's a book about his book, which is not called Das Kapital. That's by the other guy, that Marx fellow, which I'm going to have to read too, because there's this one guy who like comments like 20 times on every one of my videos who's in love with China and Russia, and he's in the chat right now. And he like spams my videos with his opinion on China and Russia being the paragons of freedom and excellence in the world. But I think it's ultimately because he likes their ideological flavor of their government. So, I got to do the due diligence thing and learn more about Marx. There's something fishy about Marx, something fishy there. But, Adam Smith's pretty cool. Adam Smith's not like, go around. Corporations go forth and pillage the countryside and rape the pocketbooks of many a fellow. He wasn't like that. He's like, okay, it seems like it was very rooted in humanitarianism, but he was just talking about how selfish behavior gives rise to good society in a certain way. He was looking, if I'm correct, it seems like he was kind of excerpting. I probably shouldn't talk about this, but hopefully this will start a discussion. Adam Smith was, in his book, The Wealth of Nations, it was doing a thought experiment. If you just excerpted all morality and you just looked at individuals, purely selfish creatures, how would society function? If you look at society, capitalist society, if everybody's dealing with their own self-interest, that has a cumulative effect that's actually positive. The baker is dealing with his self-interest, and the baconeer, why is there not a baconeer? Is that not something that historically should have been a thing? Like Francis Bacon, he was probably a baconeer, right? Like that's where his lineage comes from. Like these people that go around and spit porky things on some sort of like tree with a bunch of salt rub on it and a netting, and then encase it in some sort of, bladder of a cow and let it sit for a while. And then all of a sudden you have bacon, and then you go around the countryside and you baconeer. And you go forth with these little sticks of these crispy bacon bits that you kind of turned over a fire, and you hand them out. You're still acting on your self-interest, but weird economic things happen with the laissez and the fairs and the visible hands like going around and massaging everybody's tender bits with wealth. I don't know. So I have a lot to learn. So I'm in learning mode right now rather than preaching mode. And I guess I'll switch down. We'll see how dramatic a year 2021 is. And there's so many things to pay attention to and to be ignorant of. Let's go back up here. Some super chats. Don't give up. Economics. Super chat. Point creation. Would you consider showing off any paintings? They're not in my room right now. I can do that in the future. Oh. Okay. Point curation again. This sounds like some sort of poem. A pilot of passenger plane is self-interested. A pilot of a passenger plane is self-interested. Yeah. He wants to get to point B to get into that hotel room where somebody might be waiting for him or will be waiting to meet him there. Trying to be polite here because there are things that it might be the case that somebody's watching me and I don't want to be too crude in this public forum. We are thriving, though, and to thrive is a crude activity. Andrew Joyner, super chat, thank you for the British pounds. Hi, when was that interview with Desiree made? Kind of curious. Always loved your content ever since the Evergreen Nonsense, by the way, all those years ago, almost 4 years. In 2 months, 2 days ago, we'll be at the 4 years of that May 23rd. Can I tell you something about answering that question? Desiree sat on that interview. So I interviewed Just Thinking by Desiree or Desi, DESI-RAE. And we spoke, I might be able to find this if we were in, I've done so many interviews. My Skype is just like, oh, remember when I had Joshua Mitchell on? That guy's so cool. I can't find it. It was a couple months ago. It was like, it was a week after, 3 weeks after the Capitol thing. So February, first week of February. So it was probably about 6 weeks ago. It was a while ago. And then she just published that on her channel now. And it's a good conversation. It takes a while for us to get going, but I think we make some good points. We have some good banter going on. So that's that. Another super chat. You guys are being very generous to me. I'm going to have to get Bijou something of a present with all these gifts that you guys are giving to us. Super chat from Spooky Pen. Put it in the ink. What is it called? I'm not going to be able to find this, but when you had a quill and you dipped it in the ink, what was that thing called? Was it just a jar? Is there not like a fancy name? What would you do with your spooky pen in order to get it inky? That's a question that you guys can answer out loud if you're alone, and I will listen to you. I'm listening from afar. Super chat, thank you. How likely do you think black unions are? Is that when companies dump wokeness? Black unions. What do you mean by that specifically? So like unions that are composed of a particular race that then somehow have bargaining power across one industry, or like one industry, one company. You would have to have like a massive amount of buy-in to have leverage. So I don't know how that would actually operate practically, a black union. So this is the first thing that I've ever heard of. There was something interesting that happened that I haven't really looked into, where Evanston, which is north of Chicago. So if you guys are ever in Chicago, there's these veins of transit, and they're called the L. And there's this one vein of transit that's called the Red Line. And if you go to the top of the Red Line, you can switch over. Sometimes it just turns into the Purple Line. And the Purple Line will shoot you over to Evanston. Evanston is the first city in America to have this reparations program. And I only read like one article on this. And it seemed really interesting because it was about, it was certain $100 million or something, and you have to live within Evanston between 29 and 69, I believe. But basically, you would get this money if you qualified as a Evanston resident who was black. You would get money specifically for housing, whether to help you pay off a loan, to help you get started with a housing loan, or to fix up your house. So I thought it was really interesting because it's basically an investment, a material investment, so it locks that money down. So I thought that was an interesting way of kind of redistributing value to a community that has been denied the ability to earn value within a certain domain, just strictly within property and real estate. It was really interesting. But then like my skeptical side's like, okay, they're getting all the money for this from marijuana sales. Like, okay, so that's really interesting. So who's buying most of that marijuana? And then how is that marijuana going to go, that tax on marijuana, is it going to be redistributed? And again, with any sort of redistribution thing, you have that redistribution apparatus that's going to sponge up a lot of the money. Is that going to be really efficient? So who's really working out here? And then it also goes through the banks too. So it'll be interesting who the winners and the losers on the side are for this. But I think that was a really smart way of making reparations for a certain specific locality, a certain specific timeline to cause some sort of restoration of missed equity. And I would much, much rather, I don't know where the conversation on reparations is going, but I do I've listened to, in the last month, I've listened to several people talk about reparations for the black community. And I don't know to what extent that's going to be implemented, but I kind of ultimately, this is such a dick thing to say. I'm really sorry about this, and I'm kind of joking, but if this community, if a certain community is given financial reparations, I'm willing for that to happen and to be a part of that payment, even though my own history, with immigration and my own family didn't really necessarily produce the slavery in the United States. We totally missed that. But, I think my grandparents got ahead with certain policies post-World War II that were not afforded to the black community. So, there's all that calculus of privilege. But, if we settled that debt and say, okay, you cannot implement critical race theory, you cannot implement various forms of equity within education. So we're going to take all of this bad idea, this bad critical theory stuff out. So I would rather pay, if it comes down to it, I would rather pay financial reparations than moral reparations. If the debt is settled and the race hustle ends at that, I think it might be a net benefit for our society instead of pouring billions of dollars into all this training that doesn't actually do anything other than create a managerial elite class, a portion of which is from a certain community, rather than just cut out that whole bureaucratic apparatus, those $2 billion and all those wasted man hours. This takes a lot of time and a lot of money in that, and just cut a check and say the debt of America is settled. It's just settled. I think that makes more sense to me. And I mean that all due respect. I should probably have a conversation with somebody about that, who's for reparations, because I don't want that to come off as me being dismissive. But the critical race theory going into our schools, the destruction of excellence within our education, like the amount that we will be paying for neo-racism will actually be much more than if we just settled that debt. Now, I haven't heard that argument one way or the other, but I think that it might be viable. That's just my thought. But that was just me riffing on whatever a black union is. Actually, and my point dovetailed with yours. If we gave this community, like we gave people in this community, certain forms of leverage that they've historically lacked, right that, and just kill the ideology, kill this racism 2.0 ideology, kill the Kendi Institutes and the D'Angelo trainings, just kill all that stuff and just, figure out some sort of back and forth, some sort of leverage that allows for, actual reparations or actual advancement of a community that has been historically left behind or suppressed. That makes more sense to me. It would cut a lot of people's livelihoods out. They would actually have to do something other than just morally grandstand. But then what would I do? Who would I interview? If wokeness wasn't on the rise, am I not shooting myself in the feet? I mean, who the hell is going to look at my Substack? Right? My writing is so fucking difficult. I'm not apologizing or justifying at all. My writing is terribly, terribly difficult, and it can't be any other way until we get later on, because we're dealing with a very difficult book. Anyways, that is in no timeline will my writing ever afford me a livelihood. Being an interview on the internet could, and I'm totally ready and willing to pivot out of this particular domain as long as I can carry the audience with me. And the audience will come when I find something else to pay attention to. I'm kidding and losing the plot. Taking a drink. In China, everyone is as though carrying a weight. I'll fight you naked. I feel like I'm only hearing half of the discussion here. Gloomy. Thoughts on why personal trauma became an identity for many. After going through my own tribulations, I thought a source of identity is how you recover. Gloomy, I would be interested to know the decade of your birth. I think that I think this is already said. I don't like repeating other people, and I think I've already said it too. So if I'm repeating myself, it's better than repeating other people. But I think that social media has gamified trauma. It's gamified compassion. It's gamified empathy. Empathy has become a status, a way of accruing status is appealing to people's empathy. The easiest way to tap into empathy is to be hurt, because if you are in pain, you are eliciting some sort of neuron in somebody else's envelope of astral caringness to get a little excited and send you little feedy points of likes and hearts and, oh, I'm so sorries. So I think that social media has conditioned us to seek attention. Attention has different sorts of weights and values. A right-on man or you go girl, there's different sorts of positive and negative feedback that you can get. It's really easy to appeal to empathy. Empathy elicits a protective rush of caring that is very easy to translate into words and into caring emojis. So I think that kind of started this kind of trauma being a viable form of social credit. And then you have that dovetailing with grievance studies. You have that dovetailing with, to expand on that, certain studies within the academy have been built around identity and built around conflict theory, which uplifts the downtrodden and deconstructs the uplifted, right? And switches those two powers. So it kind of further cements this ideology of seeking to restore or seeking to lift up the bad person. And when there's a certain mass of people that are going around looking for things to care about, or very willing and able, and then morally obligated eventually at this point in time to care and to show that they care, that incentivizes people standing up and propping up their trauma and expressing that trauma. And then you have, like I had Sherut on, I think I'm mispronouncing her name. I'm really sorry about that. Serut Chwala on, and she is a psychologist in Britain. I had her on last year sometime, and she talked about on Instagram, you have all these therapists that are basically concentrating or teaching people to sit in their trauma and making trauma, underscoring that and magnifying trauma. So you have this whole industry who is set up to help you get over things, is actually now teaching you to sit in those things and make that a part of your identity. I think that hopefully adds a couple of one or two, maybe I tease something new out of that, but I think I've said something that other people have been saying. But for whatever reason right now, trauma is a currency, and there are incentives in place for people to be traumatized or to bring up their trauma and to make it a part of their identity. And identity means some sort of sustained marker of existence that people can recognize. It basically is a social marker. It's like, I know that person, I know their shtick, I know what they're about, and that eventually becomes your identity, or the basis for your identity. Because if you can say, I'm traumatized, then you have a lot of rights to ask for certain forms of deference or deference. Salve. I don't know how to pronounce that. Zamira. I don't know how to pronounce correctly the SC. Do I have to talk like Zizek? Ideology. I'm just making fun of that rhino virus spreading Slav. Anyways, but I'm going to get to your super chat. Sav says, worried about wokeness entering my workplace, marketing agency, any practical steps I can take. It's mainly young people and a monoculture. Well, okay, if it hasn't entered in yet, then definitely make friends with people, and make friends in such a way where you're having conversations. Like, make a deep kind of discursive relationship with as many people as possible, where you're always testing out ideas. Make yourself somebody that's really curious and is investigating things. And then you kind of model that behavior of being flexible and being willing for the challenge, so that when those ideas come up, people will expect everybody. It's like, oh, we deal with things as a community here, as we take things on as a challenge. So that's one way if it hasn't already infected it. You said it's already a monoculture, though, so maybe it's already primed for certain ideas that hyphenate. Why do I say hyphenate? Certain ideas are built that, certain ideas that fall within the toolkit of what we call wokeness are designed in such a way to concentrate monocultures, because it becomes very expected for people to act urgently, to agree, and to squash dissent. Because basically words are violence, disagreement is harassment, to not see the problem is to be a part of the problem, to not actively be engaged in dismantling the problem is to be passively engaged in keeping it afoot, right? All those ideas, that network of ideas, causes the monoculture to be really cemented, causes people who are unsure to be silent, causes people who are sure to be very loud and to police other people's behavior. So also not only participating in, questioning and communication and having these discursive relationships, that will perhaps edge your community, your workplace community, or your industry towards being ready to argue about ideas, but it will also give people who will be quiet when the totalitarian ideology comes into place. And when that iron curtain of discourse descends, those people will already know that you're somebody that they can trust. You're somebody that they can talk to, and that it's okay for them to speak to you and hopefully even out loud. Right? So what we need to do preemptively is to empower the people who would be a part of that silent majority that would allow this stuff to basically take over things. Because it's a very limited amount of people that use this ideology to control every conversation and eventually to control the course of companies and of groups, work groups, and so on and so forth, and industries entirely. So you empower everybody, create a mindset in everybody of us talking about ideas openly, enjoying disagreement, participating in disagreement, and speaking up when we have something to say, right? And not being silent when we're disturbed, not being silent when we see something that's kind of making our spider senses go tingly, tingly. Inkwell. There we go. Inkwell. You got to dip your spooky pen into the inkwell of darkness. Speaking of darkness, I'm watching this German show called Dark. I don't know the German word for dark, but it's called Dark. And we tried watching it with the English voiceovers. It just wasn't working. So we've been going through and watching the German and the thing on the bottom and stuff. But they say "Was ist das" all the time. Every episode they say "Was ist das" like 7 or 8 times. It's like nobody knows what's going on. I don't even know what's going on. This is my first time watching it through. I probably won't watch it a second time because it's rather dark. They're like, "Was ist das? Was ist das? Was ist das?" You know, they're just like "Was ist dasing" all around, all the time. It's like nobody knows. What is that thing? Was ist das? So it's pretty fun. We yell that out loud. Was ist das? All the time. My mama ate a bean and then she turned into a monster with red eyes. No one is ever meaner. Gloomy. Thanks. I'm very old like you. 88 baby. Damn, you're 12 years younger than me. I'll Fight You Naked says, what evergreen video has the white girl doing the woke equivalent of speaking in tongues? I can't find it. It's crazy enough to wake people up. Speaking in tongues. Dang it. The white girl doing the woke equivalent of speaking in tongues. So I don't know exactly what that means. So are you saying that there's a white girl that's using a lot of the rhetoric that we're now labeling under wokeness? And there's a whole conversation to be had about what that word means. Are we talking about somebody that's just regurgitating that gibberish? Are we talking about somebody so inflamed in that gibberish that she's not even making sense within that language game? And is she praising? I don't know. I need to know what room, what day. If you could narrow that down for me, I'll Fight You Naked. And maybe you don't have the encyclopedic understanding of that 4-day protest that some of us have. Me. But there was the first day of protest, the second day of the protest, and the stuff that happened after that protest. So 23rd, 24th, and then some on the 25th, and then 26th, and then the June 2nd thing. So I don't know what you're talking about. But if you can narrow that down, if you can give me if you can tell me what her hair color is, I'll probably be able to guess more closely. If you tell me what she's dressing or wearing, and if you can tell me what room she's in, but of course you don't know the rooms, to help narrow that down. For me, Jenny's getting inky with it. Yes, we summoned her, guys. We summoned Octopus Jenny. Put that in your spooky pen and quill it. Have you watched Christian Watson? He spontaneously breaks into songs too. No, lol. My mama ate a bean and then she turned into a monster with red eyes. No one was Christian Watson. Ever meaner. This is my latest kid song. It's about like this kid who thinks his mom is like the worst in the world, and he just keeps on like seeing all these things when she's like a terrible, terrible person. But it's like a ballad of her, and it'll eventually like turn into how it'll turn into a love song. But I like tetchy kid songs. I got fired from the Evergreen preschool for singing a tetchy kid song about a kid saying to his best friend that you can't come to my birthday party, and going through all the reasons why you can't come to my birthday party. But if you actually listen to the song, the kid was blaming his friend for everything that the kid did wrong. So kid did all these bad things. He broke his toy, blamed it on his friend, forgot his shoes, blamed it on his friend, goes through all these things of why you can't come to their birthday party. It's all his fault though, right? So it's all about projection. And at the end, the kid realizes, well, he can't have a party if he can't have a friend with him, right? So there's no reason you can't even have a party without friends. So he makes up at the end. And they took that out of context, about me teaching kids and tell each other not to go to the other birthday party when it's about kids saying that. And that's how they regulate behavior. I like tetchy kids songs. And if you don't understand that, like bringing the light to kids that are in a bad mood, or bringing a light to the bad moods that people inhabit, and then twisting that around, going on that journey, it's much more of a moral story that you get out of it. One, because it's edgy. It's like, oh my God, that teacher's saying that thing. But then you actually listen to it. There's a lesson. But I was expecting too much from Evergreen Preschool. I was expecting way too much from them. We were not a good fit. I didn't fit into them. The kids were not getting the correct type of attention. And they didn't the teachers didn't like me, but the kids liked me quite a bit. Anyways, water under the bridge. Water under the bridge. My mama ate a bean and turned into a monster with red eyes. Anyways, enough of that childish behavior. Super chat, $10, SGD from P. Thanks, P. I like your ornament. Well, Sir Boris, when Wokistan runs out, it's time for the true calling of your channel. God videos. It's an industry already. You're late in the game. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend. I got one cat over there on the dresser, and I think Bodhi's out mousing somewhere or another. Thanks for letting me blow off steam. I have not much to say today. I'm just going through the chat and answering questions. Maybe we'll get on a roll here. Lee Comstock. On the rare times I log on to Facebook, I've noticed they have these really weird videos that are like a moral story about not cheating on your something. Oh, not cheating on your spouse or something. Oh, he finished it later. You're not cheating on your spouse or something. Oh, thanks, Facebook. Blackbeard. There was a CNN Chiron today that said Boulder shooter is fat. Oh crap! I shouldn't say that along. I'm not going to talk about that. I can't talk about that on my channel. Factually Muslim but morally white. Okay. I do not like talking about death on my channel. I don't like talking about it. I think it's disrespectful. But oh my God, are people being so dangerously stupid? So dangerously stupid. It's like, okay. Are you guys seeing how this, are you seeing how this plays out? Do you see? Oh, okay. If you do, then is that what you want? Okay. Anyways, it'll be Ramadan on the 12th of April, actually the 13th, but I'm going to start it on the 12th. I'm going to participate. I don't know to what extent. I did it last year. It was really good for me. I sweated out a lot of stuff out of me. I had a lot of gunk inside of me, and that kind of like sweated out of me. And it's not an easy thing. Oh, there's Bodhi. He's back. He's yelling at the door. It's not an easy thing. It's difficult. And like, there's more severe versions of the fast that I don't do. I basically, 6 to 6. And because it's on a lunar calendar, every 33 years it goes around the calendar. So if you do, and I live in the northern hemisphere, so if I just do 6 to 6, it evens out over time rather than doing some insane 14-hour fast up here in the north, or like this really stupid 6-hour fast when it's in the winter. So I just 6 to 6, 12 hours. And then you could come back on your sleep. I will cut back or eliminate alcohol. I should take a break from alcohol for that 4 weeks. So alcohol, some form of food fast, but like I have some sort of blood pressure issue, so I don't know if I'm going to do the liquid fast or the fluid fast, which is don't drink water. The really difficult fast is not getting angry and not gossiping, like really watching your lower behavior. And there are reasons to be angry and there are reasons to gossip. They're just a part of like being a human being, but like really slowing down and watching your attitude, my attitude, watching my emotions and not acting out of emotion. That's the real fast for me, like really paying attention and being really self-reflective, and taking a break from those things. They're really good. Emotions, a great tool. It's an absolutely essential tool in this world. Whether you're working alone or you're working with people, emotion's very, very important. Social emotion especially. And as a user of social emotion in my, my livelihood, like with this virtual thing, like this is built out of emotion, this is built out of rhetoric. It's a really good idea to like set aside those tools and kind of let them get cleaned, and then like kind of bring them back, I get a little sharper, a little bit. Bodhi just really wants to be inside. You can open the door, man. Hold on 1 second. Dude, why do you run into the door? Sorry about that. He'll probably climb on me. How did I get talking about that? I'm sorry if that offended anybody. People get offended when I talk about Ramadan. They get like really mad, like, oh, you're evil, bad, so nasty that you would want to focus on your internal life. I'm straw manning them. People get offended. People are really definitive. Okay. Oh my God, I believe in equal rights. I believe in social justice. Oh my God, I believe in equality. Oh my God, I believe in white girl. She was almost crying. Oh my God, I believe in it. I do not recall this. I have a very close memory of everything verbatim on that, but I would need to know the color of her hair and what she's wearing to narrow that down, and the room that she's in. Oh, thank you. Sav is giving me lessons in the SZY pronunciation. Shimura. Oh, SC Polish for sh. Oh, okay. Shimura. Shimura. Thank you. I wasn't making fun of Slavs, just a very particular Slav who spreads the rhinovirus like crazy. He's a very intelligent guy, and you can see him on YouTube. He's always talking about ideology. So I was making particular fun at that particular man, not the Slav race in general. Just in case anybody takes me out of context. Out of context, that was like an hour ago. It's too late now. It's out there, man. You said something bad about the Slavs. Why do people always think I'm drunk? Like, under what circumstances do people drink? Okay. I had about a half a shot of whiskey. I'm just talking. I don't mean to be offensive, Lee. Sorry if I reacted to you. Like, I'm not drunk. I can't function when I'm drunk. I'm not articulate when I'm drunk. This is me being sober. This is how I sobri. This is how I sobri through the world. Anyways. I'm not Islamic. I'm not Muslim. I just adopted Ramadan for other issues. Ramadan is a month of fasting, and it's a holy month of fasting. I've been doing it on and off since 1998 was my first day. Freaking, the cat is always on the wrong side. Go play. He wants to play with Bijou, and Bijou's napping right now. Now he's just flopping around on the carpet, wanting a pet. But then he'll come up here and start scratching me. So anyways, no, I'm not drunk. And if I was Muslim, I wouldn't be allowed to drink anyways. Ramadan's a holy month. I started in 1998. Part of my spiritual adventures, which I will be talking with Andrea with the bangs on her channel, because I try to keep that stuff off of my channel, because then I associate my work with my spiritual life, and certain people have problems with that. So I'm going to keep those things separate for the foreseeable future, except every once in a while in a non-drunk live stream where I'm acting like I'm drunk, but I'm actually sober. I do dive into that aspect of my life. But I will be speaking with Andrea with the bangs on her channel on Friday, but I don't know how long she's going to wait to publish that. And I'll probably get more honestly open about my spiritual adventures if you guys are interested in that. Not that you are. And you don't have to be. Why was I even talking about Ramadan? I was just looking forward to it. And then it'll be interesting to be doing interviews during that period of time. But I already set up conversations, so I think we'll be good. I think we'll still be operating within the bounds of the converse. There was a word there, but it was missing a vowel. Anyways, if any Muslims are out there, I don't know the Muslim greeting. Really bad monotheist. I'm basically a monotheist. Let's put it this way. I cannot operate outside of a world where there's a single origin and endpoint, which is higher than this plane, and that there's a discourse between us and that. That's very personal, very private, and that there has been certain wisdom traditions that have been built up with a communion with that relationship that's central. And I think of it in terms of a singularity that I have other words for, but I'm just completely abstracting it. So that's my monotheism. That's how I operate. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I can't conceive of something outside of that. Like that's basically the bounds of my world. I think it's simple enough to include everything. So it works for me. It allows me transit across various different domains of emotionality and reality, insofar as I do interact with different domains of emotionality, reality, and by that I mean different cultures and different mindsets, right? There's enough room in that to include many a different thing, but I can't conceive of anything outside of that, or nothing else makes sense. That's just how I'm formed. And I was thinking about that because I've had a lot of experiences that were kind of, more than normal, and they always happened within the context of that Christian religion that I don't necessarily practice so much. I would be a Catholic if there was one down the street. I would go to Mass every day if there's one down the street, but I don't think there's a Latin Mass in Olympia. I should probably check that out. That's the closest thing to something that really resonates with me between that very personal part of me and something that's communal. But usually it's so personal and private that I don't like the articulations that other people build up around that. So I'm kind of a-religious, but multi-spiritual or polyspiritual. I just made that up. Monadology, says Love Cat. Benjamin, check out some Lebanese monadology. Oh, yeah. Was he the lens grinder? Lebanese? Was he the lens grinder? Okay, so, yeah, we got the Blackbird Variations. Very difficult book. I'll find something more interesting for a general audience to speak about, but I need to talk about this. So, my Evergreen final, completely unrelated to my work post-Evergreen. But why I went to Evergreen was to finish this book that I've been writing since 1996. And I wrote this book 7 different times from the ground up, completely differently. This is the 7th version of it. So we're going through, there's 24 chapters, and I was going to do a chapter every other week. But then I started like, well, no, I can do once a week. And now I'm like, I can't do once a week because now I'm just like, there are parts in this thing that don't work that I have to actually take out and completely rewrite. And there's parts that are missing that I have to find. And I need that space of not being a performer in order to do that. That's the freaking thing. There's a different quality of product that you get when you're not performing. And there's a certain product that you get when you are performing. And there has to be a dialogue between those two things. So everything that I did up to before YouTube, everything I did before YouTube, except for some children's albums. There's like 2 out there. There was 3, but I didn't like the 3rd one because I was really depressed. So I took it off the internet. I hope I took it off the internet. It was really poorly produced too. Everything that I did writing-wise was non-performative. And you can actually see that in the work, that it's straining so much to be performative. It's straining to be read out loud. And it actually doesn't make sense if you don't sound it out. And so you put it up on the internet and people are like, what is this freaking gibberish? And of course, like if I performed it, that would be one thing, but to print it is a completely other thing. So I finished the first 6 chapters. I put it up. There's one part that I'm going to have to rewrite. There's one part that I just fudged because I had to put something in there because the thing that was there wasn't the right thing and it needed to be hidden. So I figured out a way to hide it in plain sight. Now Buddy's just throwing things out of the closet. Anyways, I don't think I want to talk about this right now, but I do need to give them something tomorrow. I need to give people something tomorrow on my Substack. So if you are interested in a very, very difficult piece of fiction, it does get easy. I think it gets easier to read. It changes a lot from the beginning to the end. It really goes through a whole lot of variations. But if you're interested in that, it's on alias to dream substack.com. Links are in the description of most of my videos. Anyways, I have to figure out something to give them tomorrow or just say I can't do it this week. And I think that they'll be okay. I don't know. Anyways, one more thing. I feel like I'm not being concentrated. Josu Calero, here's what I'm talking about. This guy gets me. The funky, funky hat man. Funky, funky hat man. It's an epic poem. It is. It's an epic poem. I didn't even know that that's what it was till I went to Evergreen. And then like in my last year, I'm like, oh, that's what I've been doing. You know, like after 20 freaking years. Like 20 freaking years to the month, I've been working on this thing and been failing over and over and over again. Like, oh, this is music. This is not writing. This is music. And then I finished it. My college blew up, and then I turned into an epic poet of the anti-woke variety. I was on Clubhouse. And people recognized me. They're like, oh, it's Benjamin Boyce. Clubhouse is this audio app. It's like these chat rooms and stuff. And some people, I went into this room. They're like, oh, it's Benjamin Boyce. Benjamin Boyce! Evergreen! Which is a boat in a canal. It's completely clusterfucking a large portion of the world's economy. Why don't you just blow up the boat, pay off all the people that lost their goods, and get back to that billions of dollars of commerce a day? I wonder why they haven't done that yet. Anyways, Evergreen is a similar clusterfuck, but on a very smaller scale. So they're like, oh, Benjamin Evergreen, can we do a Q&A? I'm like, okay, we'll do a Q&A. So people are like asking me questions about the college. They were asking me questions about the college. Then this guy that works for the Washington University, UW, University of Washington, pardon me, this DEI professional, this freaking administrator, he starts asking me questions, right? He actually worked with George Bridges, right? And he completely derails the conversation by like asking me to justify like my behavior and like the damage that I'm doing to the institution and all this stuff about, I have the big platform now. What am I doing to actually change anything? And I'm like, okay, well, this is what you want to talk about. And I did all this. I told like, okay, this is where I was. This is how I implement Evergreen State College curriculum in my practice. Like I'm actually thoroughly an Evergreen State College student. The way that I tackle issues is very, very evergreen, not in the way that you guys commonly think of it, but like the core model of what I'm doing is very evergreen in its essence, very independent, very deep divey, very like talking to a lot of people, very connective, very emergent, very curious, very obsessive. I mean, that's the core right there. So I go through all these things, and then somebody asked me about, some other person asked me about, what happened in 2020 was a lot like what happened at Evergreen. And do you think that it was inevitable or something about like they wanted me to compare and contrast 2020 to what happened at Evergreen? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of different things to go about that because the Evergreen State College was a very small institution. It was a very discrete event. The reasons for why they acted the way they acted ended up being unsubstantiated or insubstantial or outright lies, right? What happened in Portland and Seattle, notice that I just contextualized myself to Portland and Seattle. I'm like, I'll talk about Portland and Seattle. The similarities between Portland and Seattle in 2020, very similar to Evergreen. Not the causes or the reasons why people are, breaking up, are bursting forth, right? But the behavior of the protesters that are going around burning down city streets, sectioning off parts of the city for their own sovereign nation or whatever, night after night after night, assaulting a federal building, which that's not insurrection. That's not a coup. That's not insurrection. When a bunch of people do that in another context, though, that's totally insurrection. Whatever. I said their behavior is very similar and the leadership is very similar. The leadership of George Bridges and the leadership of Ted Wheeler in Portland and Jenny Durkheim, I think, up in Seattle. Weak leadership, allowing these people to act this way, allowing these people to act very poorly, very not intelligent behavior, whatever I said. Anyway, so I said that there's the biggest similarity to me between Evergreen and what happened in 2020, specifically in Portland and Seattle, it's really weak leadership. And then the leadership, there's no leadership, so nobody's actually guiding all this energy towards something productive. And so you have just a bunch of histrionics, right? I said that, and then this guy, this freaking administrative fucking snake in the grass guy's like, well, he lectures me about my word choice. And he starts talking about how, like, you should just watch what you're saying. You should really just be, you have a really big platform. You should watch what you're saying because people might think of you saying that they're being stupid for their behavior. He goes up on this whole thing. I don't know why I'm saying this, but it was so sneaky and he was being so reasonable and so articulate. But it's the freaking administrators. I freaking hate bureaucrats. I hate bureaucrats that think that it's their job to regulate speech. I hate that. And the thing is, this guy was asking these questions that were going on like 3 or 4 minutes long. They're really rambly. Like his language, the whole thing was really snaky. And he wasn't actually defining his terms. He was throwing out all these things to twist everything. And he just completely derailed the conversation. It really made me upset for a while. Like I was really angry at this guy. I was just really angry at this guy because he worked with George Bridges. It was just another George Bridges. If you listen to the way that George Bridges talks, it's just like there's no truth there. Like truth and facts, it's non-quantity. It has nothing to do with what we're doing here. We're just moving around pieces to make this thing work in the way that we want it. It's all manipulation. It's all freaking prestidigitation, man. That's an actual word. Prestidigitation is a word in the dictionary, and you can look it up. And that's what they do with the little fingers and things, just like moving things around. I just don't like that. I don't like people. And that's what my point was always been like, okay, listen, the people at Evergreen, the young people at Evergreen acted horrendously. Look behind them. Look at that ideology behind them and look at the teachers of the ideology and look at how they think and speak, right? Look at how they think and speak. That's the stuff that just really gets to me. It really gets to me because that's the death of America. That is the death of America. Those lying snakes in administration and in education getting paid tremendous amounts of money and not producing anything but just eroding the fabric of discourse, eroding our ability to efficiently communicate. And then whenever, and they do that on purpose, because whenever something happens that contradicts their will, they just erode the entire story. They erode the entire story by making it about nothing, or making it about the storyteller, or making it about the medium, or making it about something that's not being shown, instead of actually actually tackling the topic. Not a fan of those people. And that, Prol, is why I don't want a centralized freaking government, because those are the people who end up getting in there and then controlling everybody. I don't want a freaking centralized government. I'm sorry, I don't want it. You can spam every freaking video. I would just wish you could just keep it to 2 comments, dude. Oh, man. I wish I could just not see certain commenters. Like, Prol, whatever, you can do whatever you want, but like you just popping up in my mentions all the time, it's like, I've already seen your point. You're not going to change your mind. You're going to go around and try to change everybody's mind. You're not going to change my mind anymore. I love you, man, but can you just regulate your comments to once or twice a video, or just like one conversation, please? Do you have to dominate every video of mine? Do you have to do that? Do you have to? Really sorry to call you out publicly, but you've really been going overboard on my videos, and I would like you to just ease back a bit. Thank you. Back to something of more broader interest to everybody. Ryan Barkenhagen, awesome name. Great little backyard garden you got growing there. You write, so much of the frustration with SJW's woke is not caused by their goals, but by their habit of violating the tacit agreement of our society. Reconciliation is possible if their tactics change. So I'm wondering what you're thinking about violating the tacit agreements of our society. And I can think of so many different examples. This would be a great time to have you call in, but I don't have a call in set up. But like just basic honesty, straightforward talking. And this is from somebody whose writing is horrendously not straightforward at all. Like I'm doing loop-de-loops within loop-de-loops, a bifurcating meaning juice of some sort of weird calculation belonging to chaos magic or maybe chaos theory or something like that. I'm not a straight talker at all in that domain of literature, but there's a very specific reason for that. However, when I talk to people, when I'm trying to communicate something about society to society, I abide by certain tacit agreements that I'm going to make sense. I'm going to be honest, straightforward, get to my point, and regulate myself to one single voice, right? Instead of trying to dominate the conversation, right? And be a part of a community like that. But when you start to erode the ability for people to discuss straightforwardly, and I think it wasn't Orwell's got a good quote about that, right? About people dressing up their language because they don't have anything to say or something like that. Nietzsche has another quote about the poet festoons their thoughts to the carriage of rhythm because otherwise they could not walk, which is totally me. Like my thoughts don't walk, they saunter, and they have to saunter in a sing-songy manner or else they fall apart. Like that's just how my brain functions. And probably the ultimate content of my stuff isn't terribly intellectual. It's just playing around with these Legos of ideas and stuff like that. So there's different ways of thinking and stuff. But certain people are doing that in order to destabilize sense. I hope when I play around with meaning, it's to release meaning rather than to degrade meaning. But you never know. What is it? What is it? One man's terrace is another man's mezzanine. This is Benjamin Boyce. I feel like this was a fun time. I had fun. It wasn't terribly potent, and I apologize for that, for not being potent enough. But you got to get potent. Evergreen is the name of the ship blocking the Suez. I'm sorry, if you didn't know that, there's this huge ship. It's actually called the Ever Given, but it does have Evergreen printed on the side. And it got, so there's this canal, and somehow, from what I've read, I haven't done thorough research into this, there was a windstorm, they lost power, and they couldn't right themselves, so they blocked the channel. It got blocked, and then it got beached. Now it's floating. Last thing I heard, and this was 4 hours ago or so, is floating, but they still can't get it straight. So there's this, there's this continent called Africa, and then there's okay, so wait, how do I do this? Okay, so there's Africa, and then there's the Middle East, right? Anyways, and then there's like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and above them is the Mediterranean, and below them is another sea that connects to the Indian Ocean. And there's this little tiny ribbon of water where all these shipping things go up and forth, basically from China and India, like the entire south of the world of the East, and the entire north of the world. That's where all the ships are going. And this freaking ship called Evergreen is called Ever Given. Got stuck there, and it's been there for like, I think, a day and a half now, maybe 2 days by now, which has thoroughly disrupted billions and billions of dollars in productivity and stuff like that. And, again, why not just blow it up and just pay off? Like, the cargo cannot be worth more than what it's losing on it. My mama ate a bean and... Oh, Lovecat says buying mason jars and lids has become difficult, more or less difficult than buying AMMO. Again, YouTube, I don't know if you can even say the word AMMO. That's just really difficult to get by. So it's all the prepping materials, man. All the prepping materials. Rodrigo. I was fondling Africa. I fondled men down in Africa. Oh, that was totally off tune. I shared a video that I made on Twitter. Check it out, maybe. Okay. 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 So what's coming up? I have a very, very model-y woman tomorrow. Eva Lovia. I'm interviewing Eva Lovia. Eva Lovia. Let's look it up. Eva Lovia. She's the first person that I will be interviewing that has a registered trademark on her name. And we are speaking tomorrow. I don't know about what, but she is a model with things sticking out. And she's been, yes, I said with the things sticking out. And I mean, principally 4 roundular things. I mean, 2 on top and 2 on bottom. I don't know. This is the problem when I interview certain people in certain businesses, like, Ayla, okay. Naked woman. Okay. It makes makes a lot of money being naked. And you're like, okay, well, how do I do research for this? She sent me her blog. I found her blog. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And then I tried to send her a message and the only way to get to contact her was OnlyFans. And then so I just sent her a message on OnlyFans. Just, hey, I like your blog. Let's talk. And then automatically I just get all these boobs. And I'm like, no, I don't want to think of you like that. I'm sorry. I love the female forum, but when I'm trying to have an intellectual conversation with somebody, it's I don't want to have that as who I'm talking to. I want to talk to the person, not to the body. And so it just sends all these things going. And then with Ayla, of course, she doubles down and shows up in a bathtub. I should actually have her on, and Eva Livia. Eva Livia is actually this girl named Candace, and she's been running a IDW-ish kind of podcast of talking with the people in this realm. So we'll be talking about her thing, and that will be interesting. I don't know much about her other than that. And I'm not going to look at her things. All of the things. She is graciously beautiful in a very particular fashion. So yeah, that's who I got on. I got a lot of no names or unknowns, a lot of unknown people. I will be going away. I got Jonathan Church and Christopher Paisley, who both been doing phenomenal work deconstructing white fragility, Robin DiAngelo's theology. I have them on Tuesday. I'll probably publish that in a couple of weeks. And then Greg Ellis is having me on his Respondent channel. Actually, I have a couple dates open next week that I should fill with interviewers. Anyway, so that's what's coming up for me. It doesn't look like a lot. I've been working more on the Evergreen State College story. I'm on episode 24. I wanted to be done by 24, but there's three main things that I need to cover now. One, how the students, how the protest impacted the students, the student body, specifically in the 2017-2018 school year. Secondly, I have to cover the resignation and settlements of Brett Weinstein, Stacey Brown, and Naima Lowe. So that's basically how did the protest affect the faculty. And then thirdly, I have to do this really boring thing of just showing how Evergreen has declined in the last 4 years, which is basically me just, it's basically the George Bridges episode where I just go through all of his states of the college address, and that guy, oh man, editing that guy. I just want to be done editing that guy. Ugh. So those are the three episodes that I have to make. I've been working on the students, and I have the material in place. So I'm kind of massaging that and kind of placing things back together and kind of massaging it down. There's a couple of stories that I want to tell about the beginning of that year, the end of that year, the 2017-2018 year that happened after the spring, Evergreen Spring. And then there's some stories in there that I think are really interesting, really telling about what kind of college this college actually became after they embosomed this ideology, and apologized for it and covered for it. And how did that actually affect the college, the student life? Super chat. I'll fight you naked. My article on Medium, Letter to a Woke Heart. Letter to a Woken Heart. A 7-minute read. I hope it's terrifying enough to get the woke to stop being zombies. Use it if it helps. Feminine power. Yeah, I have more females coming down the pipes. Yes, and sorry, I'm looking in the past for Eva Lovia, Candace Horbax. And again, maybe I don't know how to pronounce that luscious Slavic CZ, Horbax. Horbats. I don't think my mouth can actually perform that if I'm doing it other than how it's supposed to be. I don't know. But her name is Candace Horbax. I will have her on tomorrow unless everything's screwed up. I hope the New York Times doesn't do a hit piece on me. Anyways, I'm going to toodaloo. Prol, if you're listening to me, I'm sorry to call you out. I'm sorry. I apologize for calling you out in public. I just would like you to restrain your comments a little bit on my channel and not take up the whole thing. So I'm sorry. I could have asked you that more directly. That was really bad form of me to say that out loud. Anyway, so I hope you forgive me. I'm going to have pizza tonight. I'm going to cook pizza tonight. And then I am going to get off of here and let you guys do your thing. I wish I had something more. Next time I live stream, I'm going to try to get Lil Apostate on. I really liked speaking with her. We're really, really chill. It might be too chill for most people. I asked her to come on like an hour before I hit play on this thing, and she was already having fun out there. So hopefully I'll get her on next time because I like our energy. I like our repartee going back and forth. It's finding somebody who can speak and listen in the right balance, right? That dovetails with yours. That's specifically for the live stream thing is what I'm looking for ideally. You guys remember Alsfoyd? I should try to get her on again. Anyways, I'm going to go. You guys are wonderful people. Be good. Make good choices if you dare. Talk to you soon.